He's my partner.
We're not partners.
Well, we're friends/partners.
I wouldn't really describe us as friends.
Welcome to Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in Hawkeye Episode 4. Personally, I love episodes like this, where it's like they're moving pieces around on a board, setting up characters for the big ending. Episodes like this tend to be hangout episodes where we just get to watch people bond. This episode really helped raise the emotional stakes between Clint and Kate.
Oh my God! What? Holy shit!
The episode begins with Clint and Kate being confronted by Jack and Eleanor. A great example of the episode shuffling the pieces around on a board as we actually get a sweet moment with Jack.
Life is short. You never know what you're going to get.
And actually, this line is a mashup of Ferris Bueller and Forrest Gump.
Life moves pretty fast.
You never know what you're gonna get.
The episode begins with Clint being held up by his own Ronin sword, a neat metaphor for how his Ronin identity is holding him hostage, preventing him from living his normal life. In the comics, Shock Duquesne is a villain, the swordsman, and he actually trained Hawkeye how to be an archer, but this is the first time they've met in the MCU. So I guess we're also not going to get to see Kang the Conqueror marry Jack and Mantis, who actually in the comics was destined to give birth to a space messiah. I guess not. Jack mentions his favorite recording artist.
If I ever met Huey Lewis.
Huey Lewis is losing his hearing in real life, so this is a nod to Maya and Clint's disabilities. It might also be an indication that he's a secret psychopath like Patrick Bateman.
You like Huey Lewis in the news?
The font of the episode's title is taken from the Matt Fraction David Asia comic series which inspired the show. Snap2Isaias on Twitter pointed out a couple of cool comic Easter eggs in this episode. Kate and Clint's conversation about boomerang arrows.
If all trick arrows were boomerangs, then we'd have them all.
Coming back at us.
You'd have to dodge.
Is the reverse of their conversation in the comic, where Clint defends boomerang arrows. Also, Kate wears this same shirt in the comic. Now, Estonian Raider on Twitter pointed out that this is named after the brave little puppy Laika, the first ever cosmonaut dog.
Oh, I bet she was a big hero when she came back from space. Did they throw her a parade?
Actually, the inclusion of the dog is probably a nod to Yelena Belova, another female who was programmed by the Soviet Union to serve a single purpose and be expendable.
What's expendable mean?
It's when puppies are very good and live on farms for the rest of their lives.
Yay, I want to be expendable too.
Moving on, look at Jack's mug. Look at it. Just look at it. The hexagons, the bees.
Not the bees!
Just like the hexes in WandaVision, the hexagons of the FTL jumps. It's all connected to one nefarious figure, your mom. Eleanor has a heart-to-heart with Clint where she name drops his dead best friend.
Natasha Romanoff was pretty damn good at it, wasn't she?
And of course this foreshadows the Nat and Kate connection that we see later on. Now, this looks like Eleanor's trying to protect her daughter, and I'm sure she is, but it's also obvious that she's trying to keep Kate away from this case because she herself is tied to it. She doesn't want Kate to become a liability that the big bad has to deal with. It seems like Eleanor is always hiding something. In this episode, it's that she likes to dance.
Well, my mother doesn't dance.
Clint once again mentions the guy at the top.
You laundering money for the big guy?
Who is probably the Uncle character that we saw in the flashbacks last episode. Now, we've made a couple videos speculating about Uncle, narrowing down our list of suspects to our two favorites, the Kingpin and Kate's dead dad. But whoever it is, Eleanor does talk to him here, and they're on a first-name basis.
It's Eleanor.
We also find out that Jack is the CEO of Sloan Limited and that he is laundering money for this big boss. Now, remember how he hid his sword ability?
Defense?
A double.
Last week I mentioned that it was probably him dressed up as Ronin who killed the leadership of the tracksuit mafia. Now this of course would clear Clint of the crime and make Maya go after the real villain, Jack. I was surprised to hear that Clint knew about the watch. Now we posted a video just yesterday that speculated that the Kingpin wants the watch to open up Tony Stark's vault in the old Avengers Tower, and this could still be the case. It is very interesting that the shots of the skyline are framed to either keep the tower out of view or to keep it obscured in darkness like here. Part of this theory says that the Kingpin bought Avengers Tower and turned it into Fisk Tower. Now, I don't know if this is going to be in Hawkeye, but the MCU is definitely planning some kind of reveal about the old Avengers headquarters. And Laura also knows about the watch.
Verschwinde nach mehr auf dem Gelände?
You mean the Rolex?
We've got a few theories on that will go on later in the video. Kate stops by with movies for a movie marathon night, which Clint was supposed to have with his kids.
Christmas movie marathon.
Movie marathon, awesome.
And the video in front is a prominently displayed DVD of The Santa Claus, a Walt Disney classic where Tim Allen kills Santa and takes his place. Kind of like how Kate is set to take Clint's place as the new Hawkeye.
You're reaching.
Yeah, I know I'm reading. And side note, one thing that I really love about this show is that you can really feel every cut and bump that Clint takes. He's more like an 80s action hero, a guy you can totally believe is vulnerable and can be killed. He's drinking from a mug that says Thanos was right, which is actually a real product that you can buy. A lot of people on Twitter were asking me why he would be drinking from this mug when the Thanos graffiti in episode 1 bothered him so much. I think he just doesn't give a crap what the mug says. He wants coffee, he drinks it from a mug. He knows Thanos wasn't right, and he's secure enough in that knowledge that he doesn't really care what a mug has to say about it. And that is another reason why Hawkeye is the best.
Did you tell them about the meat?
What meat? Oh, the meat, of course. So Doug and I have been having a real hard time getting quality meats. After all, this video store is pretty far from, well, anything.
We have no idea where we are.
No, we really don't. So it's hard to get fresh food. Luckily, we found Porter Road, the sponsor of this video. Porter Road is an online butcher shop that delivers meat straight to your door.
And how?
And they offer a wide variety of dry-aged beef, pork, chicken, and lamb, including rare butcher's cuts. Our favorite was the New York strip steak. The quality and flavor were outstanding.
Yeah, it smelled good.
Porter Road also works with local farmers who raise animals the right way, humanely on pastures with no added hormones or antibiotics. I also love the convenience of it. All this meat is delivered straight to my front door. They dry age the beef for 14 days and hand cut each steak and chop to give you the cuts that you won't find at the grocery store. Steak and chops arrive fresh and never frozen. It really is like a local butcher delivered straight to my front door. So we have a special deal for Screen Crush fans. Click the link in the description to get 15% off your first order, and orders over $100 will get free shipping. Now, back to Hawkeye. The poster Kate draws on is for a fictional movie called Chance of Love, starring her aunt, Moira Brandon. Now, in the comics, Brandon was a silent movie star who originally owned the West Coast Avengers compound. She died saving Clint's life, and he made her an honorary Avenger. Just like in this show, her apartment has become a kind of mini Avengers HQ. And by the way, pro tip, if you do accidentally use a permanent marker, it's very easy to get rid of. What you do is you take a dry erase marker, and then you kind of trace off wherever you wrote, and then you can brush it right off. Fernan Duwara on Twitter also suggested that this could be a symbol of Clint's sins as Ronin that won't come clean. Kate asks about trick arrows, and Clint says,
Now there are no more trick arrows.
Now presumably this is because they were made by S.H.I.E.L.D., Tony, or they're stored somewhere in the Avengers compound. But this is also a great little metaphor for Clint and the show. There are no more trick arrows. Time is running out. Clint only has one more adventure left in his quiver. And Clint demonstrates his incredible accuracy.
Guy is full of bolts.
And we've seen hints of this before with his skills as a dart player, and that he could have been the greatest golfer of all time.
Well, I played 18, shot 18. Just can't seem to miss.
So he's moved by the ending of It's a Wonderful Life, when George Bailey is reunited with his kids. Then he gets serious and admits to Kate that he was Ronin.
That was a weapon.
Now this is a part of Clint's past that we haven't seen much in the movies. He was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, a trained spy, and a killer. Kind of makes you wonder if Fury wanted him in the Avengers in case one of them went rogue and he could... When Kate asked him about his best shot, he said it was sparing Nat's life.
I was sent to take her out. And when I got there, when it was time, I couldn't do it.
Now, I kind of thought he was talking about Thor at first.
I'm starting to root for this guy.
Now, we have heard about Clint sparing Nat before in the Avengers.
Agent Barton was sent to kill me. He made a different call.
Later in the episode, when Kate sees Yelena, she makes a similar call, deciding not to shoot her. And as he falls asleep, he remembers how she saved his soul, the same way that he saved hers, showing clips from Endgame. We also see his memory as Ronin of him killing a car of criminals. I'm actually wondering if this is him during the blip, or if maybe this is one of Clint's first missions as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Maybe in his early days he dressed as a ninja assassin for cover, and after his family blipped, he just picked up his old suit all over again. Clint sends her after the larpers.
Larper friends.
Yeah, they're colorful. You're gonna love them.
Now in the Hawkeye comic, he owns an apartment building and becomes friends with the regular people who live there. The larpers fulfill this same function in the show. One of them, Grills, is also a character in the comic, and just like this Grills, he likes to make food. Santos2Isaias on Twitter pointed out that the two larpers are called Orville and Wendy, a reference to two enemies of Hawkeye from the comics, Bombshell and Oddball. And Orville is Clean Guy. I pointed this out in our episode breakdown, but it's not just a fun gag that these characters are LARPers. It's an example of how people hero worship. They want to become heroes themselves to feel important.
You're a superhero in real life. This is as close as I'm ever gonna get to being one.
You can see the same theme play out with Rogers the Musical and with Kate.
When I put that suit on, I thought, this is it. This is the moment I become who I'm supposed to be.
Clint goes to meet Kazi, and we see the Trust a Bro Moving Company, a nod to the Tracksuit Mafia's penchant for saying bro.
Wakey, wakey, bro.
Which is also taken from the comics. Clint drops this hint about Uncle.
I know he doesn't like this attention, that's for sure.
Which sounds so much like the Kingpin. In season 1 of Daredevil, it took several episodes for Clint to even discover his name.
No, mister. We don't say his name.
Kate breaks into Maya's apartment and finds the watch. And there were actually several clues that this was her home. Mostly the Native American pieces the place is decorated with. Also the drawings. In the comics, Maya is a gifted artist, and her early years are presented through the lens of her artwork. Also, there are boomerang-type objects on the wall, maybe foreshadowed by their conversation.
Have you ever heard of boomerang arrows?
Also, the show is about Clint's past sins coming back to haunt him, just like how a boomerang always comes back. Except this boomerang. So we discover that Maya actually knows everything about Clint, including the names of his wife and kids. That's a pretty impressive feat because S.H.I.E.L.D. kept their existence off the radar.
Fury helped me set this up when I joined. Kept it off S.H.I.E.L.D.'s files, like to keep it that way.
Now, I'm not sure if she knows this because she knows that Clint was Ronin or just because she's dug up information on him. It does take away from the theory that the watch has some greater significance. It's probably just a clue about Clint's real identity. But more on those theories at the end of the video. Kate has to fight off Maya while Clint fights off Yelena Belova from the Black Widow movie. Of course, that movie ended with Val recruiting Yelena to kill Clint and blaming him for Natasha's death.
Maybe you'd like a shot at the man responsible for your sister's death.
So Val was obviously lying about this, but it makes you wonder why Val wanted Clint dead. Chances are she works for some very shady people who are building their own team of Dark Avengers.
We're not gonna need a Captain America. We're gonna need a US agent.
Now, we've thrown out theories before, but let's look at two possibilities. One, she's working for the government, Thunderbolt Ross. He might want Hawkeye dead because he has certain secrets or would stand in the way of him forming his own Avengers team. Or two, maybe she's working for a straight-up villain like the Kingpin, who wants to control his own team of bad guys disguised as good guys. In fact, Mysterio kind of created the template for bad guys pretending to be good guys and winning the public over. During the fight, Yelena does a 3-point landing just like her sister Natasha, even though she already mocked her for doing this.
This thing that you do when you whip your hair when you're fighting.
Now I think that she's probably integrated this into her fighting style as a tribute to Natasha. She's also still using the red stingers used by the Red Room as opposed to the blue ones that Natasha used. So the moment where Kate is suspended below Clint reminds him of his final moment with Nat. And the musical scores are similar, but the moment with Kate is more muted to show that this is an echo of one of Clint's worst memories. Then he does the whole Lassie thing, telling her he doesn't like her, so she'll leave for her own good, which Brock Sampson also tried on Hank in the Venture Brothers.
Seriously, Brock, the Lassie trick?
Now, I missed this one last week, but this sun symbol that's on the front of Maya's jacket was featured over her heart on the cover of her first appearance in the comics. So let's talk about the watch and who it belongs to.
Belongs to someone I used to work with. They've been out of the game a long time, but their identity still attached to that watch.
This sure sounds like it's not Tony's watch and it's not the key to Stark Tech, and that's fine. I have other outlandish theories. I mean, it still could be Tony's watch and maybe Clint is hiding the fact that Tony's still alive. It doesn't matter, let's move on. Now, Maya already has the watch, so if it was a way for her to open up a secret vault in Fisk Tower, then the show would be over. It is very possible that Maya just wants the watch to figure out Ronin's identity. If Clint owns the watch and it has a transmitter in it, then that transmitter might contain data from where the watch has been. Then Maya could look at the data and then use it to find Ronin's home, the farm. And I guess you're wondering, why would Clint carry around a watch with a transmitter in it? Well, because the watch maybe actually belonged to Laura, and the transmitter was just in case she was ever kidnapped. Now, we know that the tracksuits were trying to steal the watch.
The watch. I found it.
And that Jack is running the business for the tracksuits. But Jack was also at the watch robbery, so he would have been there to make sure that everything went according to plan, right? Why else would Jack be here? Maybe to make sure that Maya didn't get her hands on the Ronin watch, because she would find out that Ronin was never at the Fat Man Auto place. Jack was the one dressed up as Ronin. If he did wipe out the tracksuit leadership dressed as Ronin, then this would help her figure out that he was the one who actually killed her father. But there's another more obvious possibility. Laura Barton also has a hidden past, and she is the friend that Clint is talking about. It could be that Laura was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and she wanted out of the life. Or, like Nat, she defected from another country, maybe explaining me why she speaks German. Hell, maybe she was Hydra, who knows? In the comics, Clint did marry a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Bobby Morse, aka Mockingbird. Now that character has already appeared in the MCU in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but at this point, I don't think that show even exists in the main MCU universe. So Laura Burton could be this universe's version of Mockingbird. Tony even foreshadowed that she was a spy in her first appearance.
This is an agent of some kind.
Actually, you know what? Let's go nuts.
Come on, let's get nuts.
Laura is a Skrull. S.H.I.E.L.D. has known about Skrulls since the 90s. They might have already been working for Fury within S.H.I.E.L.D. Laura was a Skrull working in S.H.I.E.L.D. She leaves S.H.I.E.L.D. and then the Watch helps her hide her genetic identity.
That makes no sense. If the Watch was so important, then why does Clint not seem to care about it?
Why? Wasn't it destroyed like years ago?
I don't know. Yeah, look, it's a silly theory, but come on, lighten up. This is fun.
Well, if you're not going to take this seriously, neither am I.
Fine, then don't. Well, that's all the Easter eggs that we found, but if you found any, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.